At those alarming crime statistics, the police and prisons civil rights union Popcru has reacted to them. And we're now joined by Popcru spokesperson Richard Mamabolo. Thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon to you.
So how does Popcru look at these statistics? Thoughts that come to mind?
Look, I think when looking at the statistics over the past decade, one trend that we've picked up is that they have generally been on an increase. In fact, even when you compare the recent ones to those of last year, there are increases. But over the years, really, the increases and decreases have not necessarily been that vast from each other. So that is something that is quite worrying, because I think we would have expected that, for example, the purpose of statistics would be to give police sufficient information around how they then deal with some of the challenges in the future. Now, the trends have not really changed that much, which suggests that the might be other underlying factors. So it's not a question about police not necessarily understanding which areas they need to focus on, but it's more of an issue around capacity, capacity to deal with all these challenges. You look at, for example, what the main challenges that people complain about on a daily basis, gender-based violence, the amount of guns that are roaming the streets, illegal firearms, of course. Now, we think that the approach that needs to be taken now is to obviously look at the underlying challenges, which for one would include changing attitudes of men in society. Gender-based violence, for example, has been rife. You would obviously need certain education.
But people will say, hang on, we look to the police to protect us from people who want to do wrong. And it sounds like your members are struggling to cope with the amount and the pressure and the types of crimes that are topping these charts all the time.
We need to ask ourselves, why are they, if they are struggling indeed, why are they struggling? That is why we need to look at the underlying factors. I mean, we know for sure that we've got 190,000 police officials looking after a population of 57 million. Similarly to that, the uneven allocation of resources within our stations is a major challenge. And of course, I think one of the things that we think should obviously be happening on a continuous basis is the training of officers in, of course, handling some of the cases. You'd remember that 2 years ago, we came here to discuss the same matter around statistics, and back then, we had a lower statistics with relation to violence in the homes, of course. Now that it's coming out, it has increased from last year till this year. What it effectively means is that there are more women coming out. Government, or rather the SABC, has created a platform for women to come out to go to police station, even though there needs more to be done. But women are coming out. That is why the statistics are increasing now. So that is the one factor. On the other side, it obviously then therefore means that those who are suspected of having committed those challenges would then be prosecuted. So it is a good thing in that numbers are definitely showing. But of course, again, we need further training. We need to ensure that we start training our kids from a young age so that they are able to obviously respond to such.
So your phone, you can get it quickly. All right, so whilst you do that, there was a total of 2.1 million crimes recorded this year, and that's down from 2.9 million. But what that suggests for some people is that crime is gone down, but really all that's happened maybe is that people just aren't bothering to report the crimes anymore.
No, definitely. The one that we can rely on is definitely murder, because when a person is murdered, they are murdered. But in terms of other cases, that is why we're saying it's important that more people are coming out. The statistics could be lower than is actually the case. So obviously, that would then need to ensure that there are further engagements with society. But again, I think the other point that we need to take into consideration is the fact that, police obviously need crime intelligence. We've been having a number of challenges within the criminal justice sector in its entirety over the years, where there were infightings within leadership positions. And of course, you would know that the only commissioner that we've had who has finished his term was the first one, George Fivers. Since then, there has not been any consistency within all these sectors. So there have been challenges around leadership. That meant infightings, that meant police on the ground did not know where to take instructions from and who to report to, you see. So all these dynamics have had a role to play. Now that we are telling ourselves that we want to move in a different chapter, we want to see things being done in a clear manner, manner, and obviously in ensuring that we do make progress in fighting crime. I mean, the president has obviously also said that within the next decade they want to see violent crimes being halved, you know. Now, we still have challenges where at the same time you've got threats of budget cuts of 6 billion. So that obviously will not do well in ensuring that we improve the capacity of police.
You talk about training and resources. I'm just wondering, are you getting the right kind of people coming through into the police service?
Well, anybody who comes through would obviously have to go through certain processes in ensuring that they are obviously up to the standards that would be demanded of them. And we think that maybe that is where things are lacking, because even those who had been through those training methods are currently struggling. You find communities, for example, creating an impression that police are useless, not understanding that you go to police stations within rural areas, you find vehicles parked behind there not being functional for over 6 months and so on. So that automatically creates a bad vibe between communities and police. Yet a huge chunk of the budget of policing is obviously allocated at those top levels, you know.
Sexual crimes is a big concern. We've just seen a clip there about what's happening in parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Women keep on going about how women are treated when they report these crimes at police stations. And it seems to be a conversation that we have year in and year out. Why is it that we're still saying the same things, that perhaps particularly male police officers are not as compassionate as they need to be when a woman comes to report a sexual offence?
That is why we make the point that it does not matter whether it's a male or a female officer. When a person comes to report crimes there, they should be attended to in the correct manner. And of course, I think one of the reasons, by the way, why this has, the numbers have been increasing is they show that they are definitely getting some form of welcome, some form of ear when they get to police stations. Though it might not be enough at this time, but it's something that we refer to when we say that there needs to be further training.
Yeah. All right, so murders have been going up 7 years in a row now. How can we turn this around? What are your members telling you?
Well, you remember that even our members are murdered. I mean, up to so far we've got 77 of them who have been murdered. And of course, I think it's also about changing the mood, restructuring the SAPS in its entirety so that it functions in a better and focused manner. Because currently there is a lot of indecision. In fact, police have been reacting instead of being proactive. I think most of the communication that we've been getting from the higher echelons has been more reactive rather than being proactive. That is why we need to strengthen crime intelligence in ensuring that the fight back that is currently happening there, which obviously destabilizes it from doing its work with regards to the NPA as well, the challenges that they've been facing are all sorted out. And of course, I think one of the other debates that has been coming up recently is about private funding, which we think that will obviously jeopardize the situation which we want to move away from.
Mr. Mamabolo, we're going to have to leave it there for the time being, but thanks very much indeed. Let's hope that those that have the ability to deploy these resources are listening to your plea, and that this helps some way to reduce these statistics. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more for you on your story, including the concluding arguments on that horrific Dross rape case.